Melbourne, where India has now raised the attack on tricolour with Australia. In fact, the Indian Commission in Australia, Manpreet Vora, has tweeted, and I quote, "It was a privilege to call on Premier of Victoria today, discussed our strong and growing bilateral relationship, the violence in Melbourne yesterday, and how to stop extremist Khalistani groups engaging in further activities prejudicial to peace and harmony in the country." So India, of course, raising concerns there with the officials in Australia, saying that the Australian officials need to step in and stop the extremist attacks which have been happening. Remember this attack which happened just yesterday, which is January 29th, after several such incidents that have come to light where Hindu temples have been attacked by the Khalistani elements in Melbourne. We have Suyesha also joining us from the Delhi newsroom. Suyesha, good afternoon. For our viewers who are also just tuning in, if you can put this into context for us, the attacks that have been happening in recent past on Hindu temples in Melbourne, and just days after this, another attack seems to have happened just yesterday on the Indians in Melbourne.
Absolutely, Samiksha. I'm here in the Noida studio, and we are tracking all these developments very, very closely, because it is now a cause of concern over growing Hinduphobia, especially these attacks that have been happening where temples have been vandalized in Australia. And now these concerns have now been raised. In fact, my colleague Vishal Monga may also be joining us from Melbourne very, very shortly to give us details, as the Indian Commissioner visited the temple. And most importantly, India has now asked Australia to act. It has been a matter of concern, as 3 attacks were seen in 11 days flat. And we saw how slogans were put out, how these graffiti were put out. Vishal, if you can hear me, I already see you on our screens right now. You're joining us from Melbourne. Give us a sense of how the Australian government is reacting to this, as India has now been firm that some action must be taken, and how they're going to crack down on these extremists.
See, one of the more important factors is that the Indian High Commission today met the Victoria Premier Dan Andrews, and he's taken up this issue at the highest level. Now, the Labour government here in power, the allegations were that was going soft on these elements, and that is why no action was being taken. But now the Indian High Commission has met the Labour government premier and informed him about the concern of the Hindu community back here in Melbourne. Melbourne is a very peaceful area. Now, if you see, several incidents have been taken place where graffitis were made on the Hindu temples, and the police has not come to any conclusions still yet. It is still investigating. And now this referendum yesterday, where the Indian students who were carrying tricolour were attacked by these Khalistani groups. They attacked them, which was caught on camera, and still right now, no strict action has been taken. That is what our knowledge is. But if you talk about the Victorian police is investigating the matter. But the most important fact is that these Khalistani groups have been really growing strong. And this is because the Australian government, the Victorian government, has not been taking strong steps. That is the allegation of the Hindu groups. Now, today, the Indian High Commissioner met Dan Andrews, who is the Premier of Victoria, informed him about this growing concern within the Hindu community, also informed him about yesterday, what happened yesterday, and had asked him that since Australia is considered to be a friendly country of India, it should take strict action, and action should be seen to be taken. That is what a strong message should be sent to these Khalistani groups. Now, this is not one-off incident that has happened. Several videos have really come in where these Khalistani groups, pro-Khalistani elements, have really beaten up students. And if you see the videos yesterday, it was just peaceful gathering. I was speaking to one of the victims. His ribs were broken, his hands were broken. But till now, there's never not been a strong action which has really pacified people here. But what I can tell you is that the Indian government is serious about this, and has taken a strict action and has informed the authorities in Victoria to take a strict action against these pro-Khalistani groups.
Absolutely. And the very fact, Vishal, that, these elements are bent upon creating unrest to send out a message and going on to attack Indians, which has really hit a limit. But Vishal, tell us more of the presence of these Khalistani elements in Australia, of the network they may have, how strongly are they spread, and to really carry out such acts, is there no fear of the law? What is the strictest action that can be taken against them on Australian soil in Melbourne? What more can you share on that front?
See, if you talk about these strength of these Khalistani groups, this has been a growing phenomena. After Gurpant Singh Pannu had really asked for referendum, this referendum being held at Melbourne is a recent phenomena where if you go to the Gurudwaras, you can see the presence of these pro-Khalistani groups. They've been provided all kind of material which has been distributed across the state. They had put up the banners. A lot of effort has gone into it. A lot of money has gone into it. And right now, because the Australian government basically think that it's a issue of freedom of speech, so they're not intervening into this issue. But if you see yesterday, what has happened is the students were beaten up. You remember the case of Vishal Jood. In that case, also he was doing a Tiranga Yatra. These Khalistani groups, pro-Khalistani elements, had attacked him, and then they had informed the police that it was a hatred against the Sikh community. The police had really booked Vishal Jood in that case, and he had to finally get deported from Australia. But here you see, if you see the pictures clearly show that these pro-Khalistani groups members were beating up. It's a clear-cut case of battery and assault. The Victorian police is yet to take strong action against these elements. And if you see these sticks being carried by these pro-Khalistani elements, they're beating up these people because they were moving on the road where the referendum was being held. Now, if you see the whole picture, there was a group of around 20-25 students, people who were really bashed up by these pro-Khalistani elements. As of now, the presence of, although there was a huge presence of Victoria police, but the police did not really take strict action. That is what the perception is. Although Victorian police is a very professional force, they are saying that they are investigating the matter and strict action would be taken. But indeed, the Indian community, the Hindu community is feeling threatened. They are saying that the Victorian government should take a strong action, strong view against these pro-Khalistani groups. Now, these pro-Khalistani groups have been really active in the Gurudwaras of Victoria. That is how they're getting all the financial support. And also, there was a lot of energy, money, time spent on this promotion of this referendum, which was held yesterday at the heart of the city, that is the
Right.
Federation Square. But what's more important is now the Indian government has really
Right.
pressurized the Australian government to really take a strict action.
Right. Vishal, please stay on with us. Amrendra K. Singh, who is the president of the Australian Hindu Association, is also now joining us live on the broadcast. Amrendra, very good afternoon to you here from India. Firstly, to understand from you the fear that is spreading within the Hindu community and Indians by and large in Australia with these increasing attacks. And how are you now in touch with the MEA as the matter has been raised with the Australian government?
Look, there's been a series of attacks against Hindus in Australia. 3 temples were vandalized over a short period of time, shortly before this so-called referendum. Then we had this referendum, and I don't know how much information you have about what actually happened. What had happened was that a group of Indians was simply walking towards the venue, holding Indian flags. The police told them to turn left. They complied. They were walking in the direction the police had asked them to walk. Suddenly, from 3 different sides, these Khalistani thugs attacked them with weapons. They had metal poles with their Khalistani flags. They had sticks. You had these nihangs with sticks, and some of them had swords. So this was a totally unprovoked, cowardly attack, which cannot be justified on any basis. Now, I had written to Federation Square, the owners of that venue, and warned them that this event is being organized by an entity, Seeks for Justice, which is a terror organization. And I had requested them not to hold the event. And many Australian Hindus did the same. However, Federation Square proceeded to hold the event. I also wrote to the Victorian Police, warning them that if you don't stop this event, there will be violence. Again, they did not stop the event. It went ahead. You had these armed thugs roaming in this event. If you're having a referendum, why on earth are you armed with swords, poles, and aluminium poles? This was not a referendum. This was a publicity stunt. Victorian police have been incompetent in their investigation. They have not made a single arrest in any of these temple attacks. And insofar as this incident is concerned, they are not interested. I've been contacting them, I've been telephoning them, I've been emailing them, that I have a list of witnesses, a list of victims, I have 30 videos to give them. They are not responding. So that's the position at the moment.
But Amrendra, you think now with the Indian government intervening and raising this with the Australian government directly, there's going to be more seriousness in taking action on the ground as far as the Victorian police is concerned, and the matter will now be looked at with utmost seriousness?
Well, the Indian embassy has been sleeping to date. The ambassador has suddenly woken up in the last 24 hours after something was posted on Twitter. I don't have very high hopes. There needs to be constant pressure on the Victorian police to put resources into this matter and investigate it.
But Amrendra, I also want to understand from you, because these kind of attacks were very, very visible in Europe and Canada, but Australia was very untouched in that sense. And now we see increasing presence, that too violently, and no pullback action as far as these Khalistani extremist elements are concerned. And since you're present there and you're tracking and understanding how they are functioning, give us a sense of the network that is now increasing in Australia, especially Melbourne is their focus, and harassing Indians there.
Look, this has been in the pipeline for a number of months, if not a year. What has been happening is that money is being pumped in from overseas into a number of gurudwaras. There are 4 in particular in Melbourne, and they are the heart of these activities. The organization Seeks for Justice has established a presence in Australia, and they are the ones behind it. It's money being pumped in to create fake publicity and to terrorize people, to intimidate Hindus, to not go to their temples, to not to speak out.
Amrendra, since you represent the Australian Hindu Association, really wanting to understand from you, as you're doing your bit, whether it is about approaching the local authorities and the police there, but how do you plan to take up this matter in a bigger way? We see how the Indian government is now taking this up, but are you in touch with the MEA? What is the plan from here on to fight these forces?
Well, it's not really a matter for me to contact the MEA. I'm doing all I can. I've contacted the local police station, the Commissioner of Police, the Minister of Police. I am sending victims of these attacks to police stations to file statements. And as I've said, I have a dossier of evidence, over 30 videos. I have the names and contact details of 10 witnesses. So Victorian police will have to act at some point in time. They can't just sit back and ignore it.
And I want you to reflect in detail of the sense of fear that Hindus in Australia are now feeling with these increasing attacks and these weapons that are being brandished in the open by these Khalistanis. Are they also feeling that they are being targeted very specifically, being mapped by these Khalistani groups?
Look, the Khalistani movement has at its heart a hatred of Hindus. That is the crux of the Khalistani movement. If you look back at what they've done, what they've said, it is triggered, they survive on a hatred of Hindus. Now, this issue about carrying weapons, there has to be a change in the law. You've got the videos there. You see it. You see those Nihangs with these long poles, swords. One of the Nihangs, what he did, he wrapped his weapon in a handkerchief and he assaulted a person. So the law has to change that persons cannot be allowed to carry any weapons. Weapons are ceremonial. They should not be used in such instances to intimidate and commit acts of violence against innocent people. So I'll also be writing to the authorities to bring about changes in the law. Now, the law is that persons can carry ceremonial weapons if they have an exemption. I doubt very, very much whether any of these persons you see on the videos had any exemption to carry swords.
Right, absolutely. And this cannot be justified in any which way. Amrendra, I want to thank you firstly for speaking to Republic this afternoon. Also, Vishal, Republic will keep following up with both Vishal and you, Amrendra, to really understand the action that is being taken on the ground by the Australian authorities and the police in particular. For the moment, thank you for joining us.